Okay, we are live. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get in here. Hopefully, I get a few people in. Greg's going to pull up the chat on his phone. Tonight's topic is going to be the Eugenia Cooney situation, but I would like to focus more on the other side of the equation, which was Jaclyn Glenn and her friends that pulled kind of an intervention. Hi, I'm gonna wait for people to kind of show up. I see some people are in. Hi guys.
Yeah. There's like one colored spot by the count.
It's the
very hard.
Post-it.
Yeah,
the Post-it's hiding it. That's
very
okay.
hard to see the number.
Try to get on the...
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
I know better by now.
Hi. Hippie Gal, you are like... You comment all the time, and I love it. It's like...
A loyal supporter.
Non-stop. I love that stuff. Hey. Hey, Shelby. My eyes are like bad. You want to put yours down here?
I mean, but then the problem is...
Oh, yeah.
I can't touch it.
Yeah. You can hold it, just like kind of keep it in front of me. Hey, Courtney. I made a post on my community tab, so I'm not sure if you guys saw it. I wanted to talk about Eugenia Cooney and Jaclyn Glenn. And I'm going to try to not contribute to the Eugenia Cooney situation in the sense that I don't think we should discuss her eating disorder. We can touch on the, yeah.
Like maybe
I don't know if I can do that. Hold on. I can't do it. I'll do it after this. Let me write that down. Hippie Gal, I'll do that later. I can't, you, oh wait, can you do it?
I'm looking. I don't think so.
It's okay. I'll do it later.
I'm not quite there yet, I don't think.
So.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, hey, Joe.
Again, thank you for the shirt.
Everybody say thank you, Joe, because he gave Greg the orange shirt, and I'm so happy. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, I'm going to talk about Eugenia Cooney, but I want to be respectful. I would like you guys to be respectful as humanly possible. I mean, she's a person, and she's in recovery. She has a behavioral addiction and a mental illness, and I don't want to say anything about the way she looks, the way she used to look, or like really what she's doing right now. We can talk about the situation that kind of led up to the intervention, and I want to definitely focus on Jaclyn Glenn. Hey, Nicole. I want to talk about Jaclyn Glenn. Unfortunately, I don't know the other friends. It was 3 friends that made a video.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, what does Peter Mon say? For those of you that don't know, what you don't know is a lot. Eugenia Cooney is a very popular YouTuber, and she has publicly, we've watched her struggle with an eating disorder, and it was something that she didn't address, and it was something that people constantly hounded her on, and people constantly made videos about it, and she had friends in the YouTube circle, and people were always hounding them, like, why aren't you doing anything? You're a terrible friend, you're not helping her, blah blah blah. And a few times they mentioned that it was just, harder, there's more to it than it looks, and
of course, there's a lot of deep stuff that goes into all that, and it's like there's surface level stuff, yeah, you can attack someone for that, but there's deeper at play that you should probably address instead.
Yeah, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. You see this tiny little window into her life, and I'll show you more eventually, but for her,
still such a limited part.
Yeah, for Eugenia, she live streams and videos out of her, and makes videos out of her room, and she plays a lot of video game and does a lot of cosplay, but that's what we see. We see the Eugenia that she's presented. So we don't know what Eugenia she's showing to her friends, and we don't know what they've tried.
Yeah. So
I had a lot of questions, and I still have a lot of questions. I don't have answers, but I was trying to relate this to an overdose or an intervention, because I think it could be comparable in a lot of ways. So what we know is that her friends did an intervention. They had to kind of force her into it, and
well, we staged an intervention on a friend before. There's definitely times, and I'm overall, I think I'm for them, as long as they're done with care and stuff we'll talk about.
They're executed properly. I was actually going to discuss the one that we did. So, as oddly enough, in our addiction, we did an intervention on someone else. There is reason for this. I will explain why.
There's some lines that you don't cross, and we felt that a line had been crossed that indicated someone needed to step in.
And to be committed, I guess in California, like they were, yeah, see,
we'll get there.
I will get onto that part, but her mom was definitely a big factor, and there's still a lot we don't know about that too. But it's scary. It's scary to watch someone struggle like that because you love them. You know, I don't like love Eugenia, but like I
get
watched
invested
her.
in these people. I
want her to win. I want her to have the biggest recovery on YouTube. I want that for her so badly, but I want her to want it. I don't want her to go through the motions and just placate us,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So we did an intervention. There is a lot of shame that we keep it. So the intervention that we did was for one of our best friends, and he struggled with addiction just like us. Like he was at the same point in his addiction, but he stole from another one of our best friends.
Yeah.
Stole like thousands of dollars. He broke into his house, and like when I say he was our best friend, like the guy he stole from was even closer to him. Like they grew up together. They were in Boy Scouts. They were in church. Like they did a lot. And which
I guess for him simultaneously made it like super difficult and also incredibly easy to steal from him because like I don't know.
He knew where he had all the money, so he just went in and took it. So it's like we knew that somebody close to him.
Well, and then he went and got a brand new iPhone.
Yeah.
And like we all knew that he didn't have money.
He said it was from his tax return.
Yeah. At the wrong time.
It was like the fall.
Yeah, it was real crazy.
So at that point we felt like a line had been crossed that was just wrong.
Yeah.
And we wanted him to get help. But I feel so weird saying this because we were in our addiction, but like we wanted him to get help because that stealing, that was too far. That was the line that he had crossed, you know. And the thing with like eating disorders, it's equally as dangerous, but when you get to a certain point, there is like you have days left.
Yeah, and you can have lifelong health effects same with drug addiction.
Same with drug addiction. So as I've been thinking about this, I try and think about, you know, she was involuntarily committed.
Right.
But we don't do that for addiction.
Yeah, and you and I have slightly differing viewpoints about...
I'm pretty open to it. I'm still thinking, like, how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Because if you have somebody committed, you know, I was looking into it and what the rules are. You really can't for addiction. Like, they have to be a serious, like, threat to themselves. So probably, like, multiple overdoses, but...
Even then, I don't know if you would...
If
you would have to maybe... If there was an underlying, which... there usually is, like mental illness, you would have to maybe do that.
Go from that angle.
But a lot of the times, like, unless it's super serious and, like, you don't want to involuntarily commit someone, because it just, like, it could wreak so much havoc on their lives.
They could get through the detox like Molly did. She went through a week-long detox, got out, relapsed, and overdosed.
Yeah.
So, really, putting someone into treatment against their wishes, like, it's dangerous. It's more dangerous now than it's ever been. And I don't know. I feel like we got to do something. Like, we should have something to do, but what can you do?
Like, there has to be a system in place at the hospitals that then this goes along with, like, having more treatment facilities and varied treatment facilities. But, so, you have to, when they overdose, they have to be, like, talked to by someone who cares instead of just shoved out the door and be like, hey, or is this the path you want to continue to go down and possibly die, or can we look at options to get you help? And you know, they may say no and walk out the door, and that's fine. But if they're ready, like...
What is the 302 in PA? Can you comment on that?
302 is how the code to involuntarily commit someone, if I'm not mistaken.
Smart.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like Greg was saying, our emergency departments, they're really, really messing up. And we're realizing this, but almost too late. Like, we've known for years that this opioid crisis is growing and growing and growing. And yet we're not treating the number one spot where most people end up with addiction.
They're not staffed for it. They're not ready in any way, shape, or form. And that has to be, like, come from a state level, budgetary level. Like, this is a thing that we have to help people.
I have, I've applied for this job multiple times. I really want it. It's the warm handoff for overdose survivors, and Pennsylvania is rolling it out in certain counties, and I think they're going further with it. It's the second part of this opioid bill that they had done a few years ago. Hi, Cindy. And this warm handoff is someone is going to, you overdose, and then sometimes, not always, they let you go, and they don't even take you into the hospital.
Right.
But from my experience, more often than not, the people ended up in the emergency room. From the people I was with when they overdosed. There was one situation where she didn't end up going. They revived her and she didn't go. But I think it's becoming more standard now for people to just take you in.
They're just so severe that I think...
you have to, because it takes more than one dose of Narcan. Like, usually it's like 3 times, 4 times, and that's crazy, because one dose, like one prescription, has 2
spray things.
Sprays? I don't know what you would call
doses.
it. And, so I think that we could be doing so much with that. We can't involuntarily commit people. We don't have enough beds. We are criminalizing it more than anything instead of getting these people in treatment. So they are talking, there's some places, I think it was in Rhode Island, I can't remember, Boston maybe. I can't remember, somewhere northern, yeah.
New England?
Yeah, and they got hit really hard with the opioid epidemic.
New England's,
yeah.
lousy.
So they let the emergency room doctors prescribe Suboxone. They give them a 3-day dosage. They give it to them. They let them come down from the naloxone or Narcan and then stabilize. And then they give them the buprenorphine, and they show them what it feels like. So it gives them 3 days to decide, hey, this is kind of nice. I want this, or no, I don't want this. And I think combining that with, and then they get you linked up with an outpatient facility. So it's you get the medicine, and then you have an appointment at an outpatient clinic. You don't have to call to schedule it. You don't do any of that. You have that.
Yeah.
And then the next step should be the warm
handoff?
Yeah, warm handoff. I always say it backwards. The warm handoff should meet you in the emergency room, and then follow up with you. Say, I'm not sure how I would like it done. They could either call you to follow up, or you could, the overdose survivor could call the person.
Yeah, you're probably better off reaching out to them.
Yeah, they said that sometimes, the response rate is still pretty low, but we're still not treating addiction the right way in my eyes. I feel like we're treating addiction like it's
a crime.
And a choice.
Yeah.
And not a disease. And that is so infuriating.
Right, we're not treating the disease as best we can.
Yeah. So I don't know if any of you have overdosed or ended up in the emergency room, but if you have, can you please comment and let me know what happened? If you overdosed and you were revived, did you get taken to the emergency room, or were you just left go?
Yeah, and then was it a wake-up call? I feel like a lot of people overdose and it doesn't really hit them. They don't realize that I just died. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I think that because we have Narcan, I had, my best friend was revived 7 times. Now that she's sober and clean, that scares her.
Yeah, you can see how crazy that is. But at the time, it's just the cost of doing business, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When we think about the Eugenia Cooney situation, we know, I'm just going to take what Jaclyn Glenn said as facts. So this is, all, what's the word they use? Supposedly?
Allegedly?
Allegedly, yeah. Allegedly, Eugenia's mom was not very helpful, and Eugenia lived a very private and restricted life. She did not go out and socialize very much anymore because she was always thrown in her face. But there's something I wanted to talk about.
She was made to feel like she was bad and
because she didn't know that she had an eating disorder, and I know that might sound weird. Wait, pause. Melissa had an overdose. What did they do?
Stripped her naked and threw her in a cold bath. That was before Narcan was a thing. She just picked up 2 for today. Nicole said Neil overdosed, and they put him in the mental hospital.
Was that Neil's choice, or was that something that they made him do? Did they give him an option, or did he want to do that?
And then Renee overdosed on Xanax and a suicide attempt, and she just remembers waking up, being in the hospital with SpongeBob on, and they let me go after I talked to a social worker, which I think is probably, you know what I mean?
Actually, Renee reminded me of the situation of me in Williamsport, not when I was with you, prior to you. I had a suicide attempt when I was in college the first time. That's actually why I left school. I was so miserable. And I took a bunch of pills and tried, I don't know, as soon as I took them, I knew, like, I was like, I don't want to die. I just want everything to stop.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I explained it. So I went to the emergency room. They pumped my stomach, filled it with charcoal, did all that thing. And the doctor, because Williamsport at that point was a very big drug town, this is prior to my actual addiction, he just let me go. My mom, bless her heart, drove all the way up there, so it's like a 3-hour drive. She flew up there, and she said, you're going home, we're going to York Hospital, and you're going to go, like, I knew that I needed help. So I was willing to be committed, and I was committed for 72 hours. But that doctor in Williamsport was going to just let me go. And I didn't even, like, overdose on opiates or heroin. Like, I took a bunch of, Concerta, I think?
Sedative?
No, I took a stimulant. Like, I took whatever was there.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really think about it.
Just mess my system all up.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch on quickly with, like, involuntarily committing someone is that when you do that, and most of the time you have to call the police, who aren't trained to respond to people with mental health problems at all. Like, so a lot of the times the situation ends up escalating and you can then have criminal charges, or it can...
Or they look for something wrong to give you, like, criminal charges.
Yeah, we need like, either officers more trained in how to deal with calls like that, or another separate thing to, like, address mental health in this country, because it's pretty bad and it's never talked about. And as, like, I speak openly about it, you speak openly about it, even at, like, work and stuff, and people just, they shut down, and it's like, no, I know you're like, you clearly are struggling as well. And it's like, if we could talk about this, we could all probably feel a little bit better.
Yeah. So, Rose said that when she overdosed at her local ER, they gave her Narcan and sent her home, and then she ended up not being okay. Yeah, that's actually a very big risk these days. Because of the fentanyl and the other things in heroin, and you don't know if, like, you could be revived and then 30 minutes later, an hour later, need more. And some people are revived and go back out and use. Hey, Jess. Hope your day's going a little bit better.
Right. I'm sorry you had such an ordeal.
Yeah, if you guys haven't watched her live stream, you got to go check that out. After this one, though. Wait till this is over.
Right.
So, I wanted to go back to the Eugenia and say how her mom allegedly was kind of an enabler, and was telling her that she looked okay and that she was fine, she was beautiful, like, she was living in a bubble. And then she would always be faced online with, like, so many, like, people would make screen names that were like, Eugenia, eat a burger, or Eugenia, go kill yourself, like, and then join her live streams and say that stuff to her, and it's just ridiculous. But I don't think she genuinely knew she had a problem for a long time. Like, I mean, we watched this went on for years. It's documented online. I think she first came onto the internet in, like, 2011. Like, it's been a long time. So I was looking into this because I wanted to know a little bit more, like, of the science and psychology behind it. So it's called anosognosia? Yeah, anosognosia. Anosognosia. It's a big word. It basically means to not have any knowledge about your disease. You lack the insight into your disease. So it can go... They have a couple examples, and it's kind of broad, and it does play into addiction, but there's more to it. So with, like, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, they often don't take their medication because they don't actually know that they have a disease. They don't know that something is wrong with them, and they don't know that they need to fix it. Bipolar I've seen people struggle with that because they get angry because the medicine really sedates them.
Right.
And schizophrenia medicine, like, I think it gives you, like, tremors from a video I watched. So it's hard, you know? And then Alzheimer's. People with Alzheimer's might not actually know that they have a memory problem.
Yeah.
And then it goes into eating disorders. Like, they genuinely don't realize that their behaviors are a problem. And it can go into addiction, but it walks a fine line between say that again?
Anosognosia?
Anosognosia and denial. And denial is when you're aware of the problem, but you minimize it or downplay it or pretend like it's not really an issue.
There's like that thing in the back of your head that's like, oh no, I think you might have a problem.
Yeah.
Like that's denial. But anosognosia, that you lack the insight to even be able to realize that you're sick.
You genuinely don't know that, so getting treatment is hard.
Yeah, someone mentioned that she had suffered like sexual trauma as younger, which like can, of course, like trauma in any fashion really, really can mess you up later on, and she didn't ask to be this way, so it's like I can
Paige, if you could send that to me, I would appreciate it. And Renee, I understand the anger. I don't have bipolar, but I understand the anger. I get that sometimes when I don't take I take Wellbutrin, and
we both have mania at times, like and it's a weird, like, visceral feeling. Like, your body just feels
It would be
different.
hypomania.
Yeah.
But it's not diagnosable, but, like, I think everybody kind of experiences that swing.
On a scale, yeah, to some degree.
So, if she experienced sexual trauma, that makes even more sense, because she probably just compartmentalized it. And I watched one of her recent videos. I know I said I didn't want to talk too much about her recent stuff, but she did say that she doesn't think her friends had her best intentions at heart, and I can understand how she says that, because she still feels attacked.
Yeah, but I don't think that you go through staging an intervention for someone without all the love in your heart. You know what I mean? Because it's such a difficult thing to do, and you have to have the conviction to follow through on that, and that comes from a place of love. It doesn't come from anywhere else, in my opinion.
I saw a picture online today of a girl, and she had a Snapchat filter. Like, I've just recently seen her, so I know she looks healthy, but in the picture, she looks gaunt, and her grandma commented or something and said that they were worried about her, and they just wanted to hug her, and blah, 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 and it's like they took offense to it, but I had to remind her, I was like, that's just coming from a place of love. And sometimes people say things that you, one, don't want to hear, or two, they don't fully know all of the details, so they could be wrong, and you have to, don't get angry at these people. Like, try and understand where they're coming from and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So with the Eugenia Cooney situation, they had to go to great lengths to get this intervention staged.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand, because there's a very specific way that they had to do it in order to get her
she had very much
committed.
isolated herself, which is like, that's kind of a thing that cults do to, like, keep you sick and keep you from, like, figuring anything else out and being exposed to opinions different than the one your cult of personality leader wants to you to feel like. It's isolation is a tactic that
it's also
works.
an addiction, and that's why I think that at some point she switched from, like, not having any insight to her disease to, like, denial, because of the fact that she basically hid from everybody. And she, the one time that she went out, she was put in, she was committed. Like, she was dangerously ill. Yeah,
but I can see how that would make her very upset and feel like she was betrayed the first time she, like, went out on a limb. Like, it's difficult, like, and when you have an intervention with someone, you have to go into it knowing that person may reject it completely and may never speak to you again.
You might lose them.
Yeah, you may lose them.
You might lose them. They might cut the friendship off. You might lose them and they don't seek treatment, and then they overdose, or, it could go so many ways, and it's hard, because I talk a lot about loving an addict and how to do it and what to do.
And I think it's very hard.
Yeah, I think that the conversations are the most important part and place to start. Like, we don't ever want to jump into something running. We want to kind of gather what you know and approach the situation, but, like, don't skirt around the topic. And I think that's, like, Eugenia was allowed to skirt around the topic for so long. People asked her all the time if she was okay, and I know that fed into her, like the Anna supporters or whatever, they, people there are sick people out there that will encourage that kind of behavior and aspire to look like that. So, it in a sense, like, her disease was making her a lot of money.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like,
that was what she was known for.
Yeah.
Like, that's her sense of self is tied to her appearance like that. And especially if she was assaulted, like, trauma, that destroys your sense of self and your sense of self-worth. So if your self-worth is tied to having this presence of this on this channel, like losing that, the thought of losing that is you can't go through that trauma again.
Yeah.
Like not without substantial working on it.
Yeah. So when you when you approach the conversation, like if her friend said something to her and she denied it or skirted around it, what would you do next? Like, would you continue with it? Like, how do you?
It depends on if like this is the latest in a series of times we've tried to approach the subject, and like it's getting to the point where you don't think, you know, something bad could happen at any time. I think you just can't let up. You just have to be like, look, I love you. This is what is real. Like, please, you know, that's best you can do, man.
Yeah. Oh wait, Angel said something. Oh yeah, Angel, I'm sorry. That's very sad. She has a good friend who she's slowly watching waste away, and they are, in a sense, in denial, saying they're vegan and they work out every day and like restrictive eating and then excessively exercising. Like that fits the criterion for bulimia.
Yeah.
How do you feel about her mom's actions / lack of? I'm blown away. There's a lot of people are throwing her out that
Munchausen by proxy.
Munchausen by proxy,
yeah.
Which at first I was like, no, because she's not, like, Eugenia is sick. But then I realized she is making her sick by enabling her, by continuing to tell her that she looks beautiful, she looks fine, everybody else is wrong, and then keeping her in this bubble. And I don't know, her mom has, for the most part, from what I've seen, stayed out of the limelight. Like, she is, like, Eugenia is very close to her, so she is, you know, around in some of her stuff, but most of the time
profits off of her daughter's popularity.
Yeah, like, she profits a lot. And I think the biggest worry for a lot of people, or the biggest conspiracy theory, is that someone has an insurance policy on her. And it's very possible, but at this point, because it's been addressed, so I was thinking about this. So if they had an insurance policy and it wasn't ever diagnosed or treated, then it could have maybe, if she passed away, played out. But
I still think it's an accidental death.
Yeah?
Like,
You don't think that they would say that her parents contributed to it?
The only way it's not gonna play out is like suicide, or like even if her mom would have to like directly like murder her basically. Yeah. Well, that girl that like texted her boyfriend to kill himself, which the story goes way deeper than that. Like they were both very, very sick people, but like she was convicted of that, and like they both really played a part in that. So you can be held responsible for what you say to people, especially when you are with them and you're like their only confidant. Like what you say to them matters, and like you have to realize that you're doing harm, especially to your child. Like I wish that for her mom's probably sick too. Like her mom has mental illness. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, she definitely has a mental illness. If she is truly doing what they are, like, allegedly saying, then she has a mental illness. And I don't expect Eugenia to do it, but I wish that she would somehow explain her mom's position. I don't know. It just sounds so crazy to have your daughter close to death, like on the brink of death, and then when her friends get her into a hospital, you call them and tell them they're the worst friend in the world and you're such a piece of shit. Like, that is wrong. And it's so frustrating that isn't anything, that's not enough to do anything to the mom. Like, I can't believe that we're, like, I understand because I don't want the government or police to be overstepping those boundaries, but at the same time, it's so infuriating to know that, like, if this is true and it went out and like the mental health workers were in front of it, the police officers were there, and they heard this conversation and saw the driver like trying to get into Jaclyn's, if all of that happened, why can't we do something to the mom? I get why, because if we do that, then we're giving the police permission to come into a lot of personal affairs that they shouldn't be in. So it's like, I understand, but I'm also sad that it is that way.
How old is Eugenia? Like,
I do not know how old she is. She's in her 20s.
But an eating disorder is like incredibly hard.
She's young. I'm not sure how old she is. Paige, do you know how old Eugenia is, or anybody else? I know Paige was commenting the most about it.
Like, she's fairly like big on YouTube though, right? Like she had a substantial following.
Oh, she had a substantial
following. She's making
like
a good bit of money.
Yeah.
So
and now she's at 2 million subscribers.
Yeah, I really think her mom is driven by some desire to be in the spotlight, and she is in the spotlight because of her daughter and who her daughter is and the
gives her
the
power.
disease she suffers from. Right. It in the world we live in that is so ego driven and celebrity focused, and there's like fan celebrities, like people get famous for being fans of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's a powerful thing, and I think it can be a powerful driver, especially if there's underlying mental illnesses that lead you to look at things in a messed up way.
So, like you were saying, like the ego-driven society. This is a little off topic, but I'm sure you guys won't mind. Have you seen the ice cream challenge? Do you know what the ice cream challenge is? You know what the bottle cap challenge was. That's where you kick the bottle cap off. That's a good challenge. Well, the ice cream challenge is this girl in, I believe it was Texas, it doesn't really matter. She went into the grocery store, opened a thing of Bluebell, licked it, and put it back. Like, that's one, disgusting, two, wrong. Like, it doesn't matter.
Three, like, aren't there bans to keep...
It's felonies. Like, they're being charged felonies. And then a man did it and then bought that ice cream and didn't show that part, and then that is also like a felony because
you can't prove that you took that one with you and didn't
and it's
there.
Like intentionally doing something, like I forget what his charge was.
Well, there was a bunch of murders that people poisoned Tylenol capsules like back in Chicago like a long time, which led to the tamper seals and like sealing and stuff that's supposed to make it like tamper-proof stuff. But you know what I mean? Like, there are people, if you're buying ice cream and it's not tamper-proof sealed, like, don't buy that ice cream. Buy a different ice cream.
But a lot of people like it because the way that they do it is it's sealed because they freeze it on upside down. So it's supposed to be like you can tell when it's opened, and you can like. Yeah. And they're trying to save plastic, or not have as much plastic by making that single-use wrapper around it. So I get that side of it. But people are weird, and it makes me like, why are there so many people willing to do such crazy things? Like,
do it for the vine. Yeah. Basically, it's all to get.
It blows my mind.
I did get an orange shirt. Joe got me an orange shirt. Yeah. And we got some other orange shirts that we're gonna be showing off too. Yeah. This one kind of has some orange on it.
This was a surprise shirt. Is that a taco?
It is a taco.
Oh, I just got it. I didn't know at first what it was.
There is a website called cottonbureau.com that has the greatest shirts like you could buy.
They sell like mystery shirts, and it's so much fun. Yeah. So someone said something I wanted to get back to. Cindy said, I think that our friends did the right thing, but I don't think it should have been on social media.
Yeah. I mean...
Yes, I don't think any of this should have been on social media. I don't think, like, Eugenia... I wish that we didn't have to watch it play out like that. Like, I wish she would have been able to go get treatment and then come back later, and it wouldn't have... But we can't.
Too much stuff is in the public eye. Like, it leads to a lot of celebrities cracking and, like... turning to drugs or doing crazy stuff because the pressure of being under the spotlight at all times is, I can only imagine it's excruciating. Like, to never be able to just walk to the store and get something without being
being able to be out in public.
Yeah.
Well, I also think like I feel like they felt pushed, like they were pushed up against the wall, because when Shane released his documentary, it seemed like it was skewed a certain way. When we get merch, I don't know if I'll ever have merch. That'll be the day if I get merch. But
I mean, yeah,
I'll let Greg design it.
Sure.
She said make an orange shirt if we do.
But so influencers taking pictures near toxic radioactive lakes.
They're sick. They're sick.
There's been. This is not going to be the first death by selfie. Like, I've seen many an internet list of death by selfie, and I don't know, man. We got to be better than this.
We live in a weird world.
Yeah, Victoria also said a cool thing about needing a psychology course on the effects of social media. Like, studies are being done, but I don't think the data's in yet. Like, there's so much to, like, and it's all new ground. Like, this kind of, like, the age of the internet plus, like, just
most of us grew up with the internet. Like, as the internet came out, you know what I mean? Like, we were teens and just growing up with it. But, like, Emerson and his,
Yeah, his whole life is going to be lived on social media.
He touched my laptop screen and was, like, confused when it wouldn't work, like,
touchscreen.
Like a touchscreen.
He only really knows, like, touchscreen interaction.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
But I'm worried about the internet profiles and having to present, and I think that would be great if the schools offered a class like that. Yeah. But I'm afraid it would turn into, like, what sex education is, you know?
Yeah, the thing is being taught by people who have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But, like, and then big data is, like, also another huge problem with living life online. Like, literally everything we ever do.
Everything you ever do is tracked, like, in your pictures and your text messages and your location. So, I wanted to go back to the feeling, like, Jaclyn feeling like she didn't have a choice. Because Shane made this...
I'll look up some papers.
Okay.
See if they have
Shane made this documentary, and it looked very, like, promising and hopeful, and he suffered from an eating disorder as well. He still suffers from it. He still has challenges with dysphoria and...
having a healthy relationship with food. Like, it's hard.
And his body, just in general.
Yeah.
So...
it's hard to love yourself, man.
After seeing that, and then if what Jaclyn says is, what allegedly said is true, like, I can imagine being infuriated, but, like... You can't, if they don't say something, it's like they're letting the facade continue. They're letting them keep up this image until it hurts her again. And I don't know if her health would be able to take it. I don't know much about the physiology. I know what eating disorders can do, but I don't know, like, what relapsing can do. Yeah. And I know it's dangerous for your health. And I don't see her stepping away from social media because this is her world.
And I think until she does, I think the toxic, like, the comments that she gets, I think it all feeds into it. And I think that the toxicity of the internet, and especially, like, you guys are great, but, man, some YouTube comments get real
I have been so blessed to not have hate comments. Like, my Blippi video gets the worst of it.
But I can't imagine having, like, a big channel and all you see is, like, just take down.
Yeah, Shane is very sweet. Someone said Shane is...
has a really big heart.
He does have a really big heart. And he does... I like what he does because he has his own style to it. But when I watched his thing again about Eugenia, like, I feel like... It's all conspiracy theories, but I feel like he put Easter eggs in there for things that were not right. Like, he showed the music and the mom being there, and then she wasn't there and wouldn't be on camera. And then the excessively locked door that Eugenia could not open. She, like, one, didn't know how, and two, wasn't physically capable. Mm-hmm. And then, what was the other thing? The lawyer. She had a lawyer in the room the entire time. And Shane had tweeted, a while ago, before he announced this video, that he was going to get sued for an upcoming project. Yeah. And, like, the timeline played out that it was this one. And I can imagine that if all of it is true, like...
You cannot be held, like, you can't be held in, like, libelous or slanderous if what you say is true. Like, you have to willingly put out false information in order to be, like, sued for that kind of thing.
I feel like he probably signed a contract before
like, if he signed
if
he signed an NDA, he wouldn't have ever done it because he wouldn't have been able to put anything out.
Well, I think that from what, my opinion is that the attorney was in the room to be like, no, you can't talk about that. Yes, you can talk about that.
That's most likely correct.
Yeah, and that's not, I don't know.
Shane definitely, he has a story he wants to tell, and he presents it in as entertaining a way as possible. Like, his format doesn't really fit what the platform is about right now. Like, YouTube wants 10-minute videos, like, frequent uploads, and he's doing these long form, like uploads very sporadically. And for him to find the success, like, in that, he has to make something that's, like, super entertaining. He can't afford to lose. You know what I mean? Like, and the story and the journalism may be sacrificed a little bit, but I think he tells enough of the story that it's a fair representation. But I mean, I could be wrong.
And Victoria commented something that I was thinking. So she said, this might be controversial, but I feel like Shane doesn't do a great job at making well-rounded videos about certain situations. Like the Brittany Louise Taylor video with the Chuck E. Cheese. That whole thing was just not his best work. But my biggest gripe is the sociopath thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually where I hear a lot of stuff. Like, I don't hear mean, like, hate comments, but people call Greg a sociopath quite often because of his ASPD. And it's like, yes, we will talk about Katie. That's definitely something I want to talk about. So, sociopath got glamorized. It became this thing again, but it's not a thing. Like, it's not an actual diagnosis. We've learned more about what we called sociopathy and psychopathy. Psychopathy. I was like, that didn't sound right. And we know that the serial killer mindset, you know, like that completely unempathetic person, like they exist, but that's rare.
And even, like, I'm a true crime nut, and even, like, a lot of serial killers have to compartmentalize greatly, and, like, some of them have to get drunk. Even then, like, a complete lack of empathy is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
So Greg had, for those of you who don't know, antisocial personality disorder, which is displayed commonly in, like, crime, acting out in crime, manipulation, and, like, not showing empathy towards others.
Lack of remorse.
Yeah, lack of remorse, but it's more towards, like, a selfishness.
Yeah, whatever was gonna benefit me the most at that moment, I was gonna do it.
If it hurt others, it didn't matter.
Right, exactly. And I would only be able to deal with what was in front of me. Everything else, like what had happened, what's going to happen, it mattered not to me. Like, it was whatever was right in front of me, and however I could best get whatever I wanted out of the situation in front of me.
Yeah.
Feelings be damned.
Yeah. So you can grow out of that. You have to work very hard and be very self-aware, and
sometimes,
a lot of, like, cognitive behavioral
things.
Oh yeah, some people don't. Some people end up falling into that life of crime and recidivism and just can't get out of that cycle, or they don't have a support system to help them because it was something that you needed support out of.
Yeah.
Then
you have to relearn pro-social behaviors. Like, I really only knew how to, like, do things the way I had been doing them, which was not the above board route. Like, I was used to doing things by the back way.
Yeah. And you are good in relationships because that was part of it, but you learned how to be good, like, all the time.
Yeah, because what was in front of me really matters.
That weren't benefiting you, you still took time and cared about them. And that, like, I know that he's changed, but people say that he is a sociopath, but that's really because pop culture has put that word back out there.
Yeah.
And it's not. And Renee said he does it in a cinematic way, and that's very true. And I like what he produces, but sometimes I don't believe in the ethics or the message. And on that note, someone had mentioned, are we going to talk about Katie? So Katie Morton is the therapist that has tagged along in a lot of Shane's videos. I don't know what the pregnancy was, but anyway, I'll get back to that. You tell me what that was about. Katie Morton allegedly was working with Jaclyn Glenn and was explaining to her how she could get Eugenia committed. Now, she went through, it's a very specific process, you know, like you have to be able to let the mental health workers into your home, and you have to have, like, all these things happen because they did it. So then Shane asked Katie to be in his little documentary or whatever about Eugenia.
Which is not ethical.
Huge unethical conflict of interest, and I'm so disappointed.
It betrays, like, client confidentiality.
People had a lot of bones to pick with her in the Jake Paul one, and rightfully so. But I saw how Shane was also playing up this, like, the cinematography in it, you know? Mm-hmm. He wanted it to have, like, this exciting storyline. So he was taking bits and pieces of what she said and kind of taking it out of context. This, though, there's no explanation for this. She was just
talking about what she talked about with Eugenia, or what was she talking about?
She was on the side to help her get committed, and then she was talking to Shane about it and explaining the Eugenia. But what she should have done, because making this video, she should have said, "I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm sorry, it's a conflict of interest. You know, she didn't have to say, I'm talking to Jaclyn. She didn't have to
I'm
say,
too close to the situation.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I could act like, yeah.
It's a conflict of interest. You should never be on both sides of the situation. It's so disappointing because I don't think her intentions were bad. I honestly think that she thought that this Jaclyn thing might not come out. I don't know if she... I don't know. And there's this one psychologist or therapist that I follow, Dr. Todd Grande, and he's amazing. And I'm sure he will talk about this because he talks about all of these topics. And it's just super unethical in my opinion. And I could be wrong. The conflict of interest might be allowed, but how are you going to...
Psychologists don't even like to talk about people that they haven't, like, interviewed. Like, they kind of refuse to comment on, like, figures in the media or politicians and stuff because...
They're not allowed to diagnose.
Right. They feel like they can't accurately talk about that person without actually speaking to them. And then once they speak to them, they can't talk about them then because they will be...
Then it's
HIPAA. Yeah, exactly. So it's like... There's situations where I think that psychiatrists and psychologists should be able to, like, use their expertise to comment on the behavior, like the observable behavior of other people to an extent, but also need to be like, hey, again, he's not my patient, but...
And Katie Morton did that in the Jake Paul series, kind of. This time she did it a lot more and said, like, from the start, like, I can't diagnose her because she's not my patient and blah, blah, blah. But, like...
the table.
Yeah, I know. Oops. I always yell at Greg for putting his hands on the table and shaking it, but... So, why would she do it? I don't know. Like...
Attention, man.
You really shouldn't...
You become the YouTube, whatever.
I feel like part of it was because she didn't know how to say no, because Shane has had her in so many of these things now.
Yeah, that could be true.
And so many videos, like, not just beyond the Jake Paul one, and I think that it's part of who she
that
is.
Working relationship.
But she could have just said, I'm busy, I'm out of town. I guess maybe he would have worked around her schedule. There's things I don't know. I want to assume that she had good intentions and just was not going to discuss it, but still, that is a conflict of interest. So, someone said that Shane isn't a bad person. Victoria said, Shane's not a bad person, he just needs to be more careful, and I agree.
Yeah, when you're gonna touch as many people as he is, like, it is beholden to you to paint everyone, represent people as best you can to, like, be as accurate as possible. Like, there's so much disinformation and misinformation and opinions and anecdotes being touted as facts that it takes everyone to be a little bit better about stuff when they speak on it. Like, and you can say, you don't know enough to have an opinion on that. Yeah. Like, that is a thing I say to people often.
And then someone said that, Jaclyn has called Katie out, and she is asking for an explanation, and she has a right to. She doesn't have a right to a public explanation, but she has a right to an explanation, because that's very... I honestly, like, I don't know the seriousness of it, but I feel like because people are so afraid to, like, talk about the president and his mental state because it could literally cost them their licensure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This is YouTube, though, so it's also entertainment. It's not, like, a serious documentary. It's not as deep, So then,
but it is still someone's life, so it's like you gotta be respectful of that.
I say it's not as deep, but, like, literally he affected so many people with that Jake Paul one. And there was people with, like, borderline personality disorder making videos. People were coming to them and thinking that they were crazy because he used clips of their videos in his videos. And, like, while I see that it's YouTube and it's entertaining and it's free, it's still, like, you have a responsibility to tell the story correctly and accurately. And, let's see. Jima said the same thing, that they're for entertainment. People should not use Shane's... Okay, so, time out. Greg made this. This is with his 3D printer. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like a little slug.
It is a slug, but it's cool. It's articulated. I printed one for my son and his friends. Yeah,
Emerson's over at the Neighbor Girls, and they got little they're plastic. They're plastic slugs, but they, like, look like...
I love my 3D printer, guys. Like, if any of you have a 3D printer, you might know. You probably don't, but they're really neat.
Gima said, I want to get back to the comment about your boyfriend being like Greg. I saw that one. I'll circle back. But Gima said, do you think that Katie is in over her head? Does she have a psychology degree? She is a licensed family therapist, and she has specialized in eating disorders. This is a topic that she knows. The psychopath, like sociopath thing, that is not something that she is specialized in. Right. So she was really just giving advice from the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is like the Bible of psychology.
You can get an incredibly good 3D printer for like $200.
Yeah.
Like, they're really not that expensive. They're cheaper than ever to get into. Like, they're very simple to set up.
And you can get filament, which is like the plastic stuff, pretty cheap. You can do it like if you know what Ipsy is, or like Sephora Playbox, where they send you a box monthly.
Yeah, there's a maker box that sends you filament. I had ordered like a shiny filament pack from somebody and got like a ton of different sample spools, and it's lasted me a really long time.
Greg thrives when he is like working on projects. That's something that really works for him. So Gma, it's the same person. I thought I was cutting someone else off to answer Gma's other question. So it says, my boyfriend can be classified the same as Greg, and you remind her of her boyfriend. Neither are evil in any way. Their emotions and ability to connect with other people are different, and that's true. Greg is very analytical too. He sees things as like a problem with a solution.
Yeah, when people come to me with like emotional like just outpourings, my response is very rarely like emotional comfort. It's like, here's the things you can do to solve this problem that you are coming to me with to lean on.
That's, people just want someone to vent to.
Yeah, and a lot of times like, you know what you need to do? Yeah, fix it. Fix it, fix it, fix it.
And because now, like the autism spectrum disorder, honestly, you have been getting your anxiety more under control, and I have been seeing that kind of subside. But this car accident thing has really put Greg out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, my anxiety has been
And I can't wait to make a video about this, because it is unreal what Greg has had to go through for this car to get it. We had our car totaled in a hit and run. Both of us had insurance.
It was a whole mess, man.
It still is. We just got a charge like randomly for $500 today by accident.
Yeah.
So, where was I going? Oh, I've seen your symptoms like with your social. You've been really pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, and I think YouTube is helping you with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think you guys are helping so much, because you are developing more relationships with him than he's experienced in a long time, and he can look at the camera now. Like our first video, if you guys go back and watch it, like he could barely look at it.
It's pretty rough.
But I was so proud of him for doing that, because it just really put himself out there. And then, have you guys done anything? Do any of you know about the Myers-Briggs personality test? Has anybody looked into that? It's like what, MBTI?
Yeah.
It's you can take a free test on 16 personalities. Now, this is a psychology theory, but the science is out on if it's accurate.
Yeah.
I can't say that there's any
Some people classify it as junk science, so a lot of people have taken the test and been told, yes, INFJ.
Me too.
Like, I'm an ISTP, and I greatly identify with that personality type. And there's other people that take the test and it tells them what they are, and they read it and they're like, oh, that's not really me. Fine. That personality type really, really helped me identify my strengths and weaknesses and my passions, and it told me so much about myself. It was an incredibly useful tool. I don't care if it's you know what I mean? And I'm a science facts person, but the thing helped me, so it's true enough for me.
Hi, Carol. I've taken the personality test a few times, and honestly got a few different types, personality types. And I recently, not recently, a couple years ago, kept
You're an
getting the
INFJ,
INFJ. Yep.
Like Angel. Yes, we're both cancers.
Yeah, both cancers. So I have looked into it, and I think you really just have to answer the questions. My problem was when I answered the questions, I answered them as work me. Work me is a different person. I've talked about
totally
this.
Different person.
And I'm outgoing and I can do things, and I wasn't answering it how I actually am. And
or you mix them up, like you take some at work and some at home. Like you have to take it from like a consistent perspective.
Yeah. But the INFJ is the advocate, and I think you guys can say that I'm a big advocate.
And you're becoming more and more like that personality type, I think, as the YouTube thing progresses.
Yeah, it's really helping me kind of come into my own, like, my recovery. My recovery is, like, really great, but, like, this is also just helping me as a person.
Joe fell behind.
Oh, Joe, we are kind of off topic now. We're talking about the Myers-Briggs personality type test.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has any questions or wants to go back to the Eugenia Jaclyn conversation, by all means, like, circle back. But I was just talking about how I think that the Myers-Briggs really helped me learn about myself.
So, Gma says that, look at me when we're talking about something serious. So, like, for me, there are times when I want to say something, physically cannot. Like, I cannot make these words come out. No matter how much I want to say them, it is like a physical thing. It's
I watch him struggle.
Yeah, it's the same thing with, like, looking at people in the eyes, like, especially if I look at them as, like, above me in some kind of hierarchy, like a manager at work or, you know, somebody
a cashier.
Else. Right. Like, it's harder for me to look at them in the eye, and I will look anywhere else to, like, avoid that, like, feeling of just, I don't know, it makes me feel so awkward, and I don't know, it just makes me that much more unable to communicate. I don't know, it's just another thing to pay attention to. So it might not be, I don't think it's that he doesn't want to look at you. I think because it's something so already difficult to talk about, most likely, if it's a serious thing, like, it's already enough, he's already so taxed that, like, looking you in the eye would be just another thing preventing him from conversing about it. But it's not an excuse either.
If that might not have lagged. My phone said low power mode, so. But I actually wanted to make a video about Greg's, like, antisocial struggles and how, like, ASPD is not like, he's not a sociopath, and I think it's really different. Like, it's taught me a lot, like, because I am an empath. I saw someone ask that. Like, I very much feel what other people feel. I very much, like, connect with people, and I when people come to me to listen, like, I listen and absorb it all. And then, like, later on, when they come and actually want help, like, I can piece together all of the times that they came to me and, like, put, like, this story map together in my mind to be able to understand where they're at. And we just have two totally different ways of thinking, and I think it's fascinating. Don't apologize for all the comments.
Man. Like,
we love the engagement. Live streams are my favorite thing. Like, I actually want to get a like a webcam so I can do this, because my phone dies by the end of it. So I would like to do it more. Like, I think it would be cool to do, like, a weekend one, and yeah. But it is almost at the hour mark, and I need to wrap it up because Emerson is at the neighbors, and I want to go get him. And I don't want to make her have to keep him too late.
Yeah, he was definitely, like, what did he say? He was all powered up?
Revved up.
Oh, yeah, he's like, you hear my engine roaring?
He was talking so loudly, and I said, oh, someone said hi. Hi, it's your first live, but we're just about to get off, so you caught the tail end. So Emerson, my son, he's 3, he was talking so loud, and he's like, I said, honey, you can keep your voice down. And he said, no, I can't, I'm speaking loudly because I'm all revved up. And then he said, do you hear my engine? Vroom, vroom, vroom.
And Cindy said it's good to master looking people in the eye. It definitely is. Like, it's just a struggle for me sometimes. Like, I can do it, and I can, like,
work up to it.
For me, I manufacture anxiety that isn't really there, and it creates, like, this feedback loop of anxiety in me where I just stress and stress and stress about this situation, and it makes me that much more unable to deal with it when the time comes. But it's getting better, especially, like, I work on myself every day as I think about what I'm thinking, I think about why I think that way.
If you guys think that another, like, day or time of day or maybe a weekend in the afternoon would work cool for a live stream, let us know. I'll make a post I'll make a post on my community tab, and you can just kind of answer what would work best. And I do go back and read all the comments because I love that part. I love seeing what everybody said and the things I missed. So I think that's where we're going to end it tonight. I am so glad that you guys were here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you could like this video on your way out, if you haven't, that would be amazing. I will be here again. We'll be here next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be posting more videos. Hopefully, we're going to get that reaction video done this weekend.
I have a couple things I want to do.
He's excited now. Yeah. He's got videos and ideas, so it's going to be coming. But for anybody that doesn't know, you can always message me on Instagram at the same username, Megan F. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to respond, but I will.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Bye, guys. Love you. Thank you for being here.